We're taking a peek into geek culture and sharing our top 10 fandom favorites. Let Your Geek Sideshow presents Geek Culture Countdown. Hey guys, this is Kitty.
This is Andrew.
And we are coming to you from the Sideshow Studios in Southern California. Welcome back to the Geek Culture Countdown. This week we are spreading our wings to cover the top 10 bird-themed comic book characters. These fine-feathered friends and foes have codenames, costumes, and even power sets based on incredible avian creatures, letting each of them reach new heights of heroism or villainy. In a world full of countless characters, these top 10 choices lead the flock. Listen along to find out which of your favorite Fearless Flyers soared to the top of this list. Let's get started. All right. Thank you for joining me, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this was an interesting one because I at first thought, oh, this will be easy. This will be a breeze to put this list together. But as you and I quickly discovered, not only are there so many different types or so many different bird heroes.
There's about 1 million bird heroes.
But like 75% of them are all named Hawk something.
Yeah.
Which made it really difficult to distinguish for this list, and we had to leave some extremely notable characters off the list. We wanted to get some bird diversity in there.
Yeah, birdversity.
Birdversity with the types of birds that have inspired numerous heroes and a couple of villains. Very interesting choices. I even believe there is a hummingbird-inspired Marvel hero who didn't make the list.
Yeah.
But we did have to leave some people out, obviously.
But I think we picked the best ones. I think we really did.
Yeah, I think we've got a good bunch. So we'll let the fans decide as they listen along. Number 10 on our list is Night Owl, and that's Nite Owl. For those of you playing along at home, Night Owl is a mantle used by two superheroes in Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. And the two different Night Owls are both parodying a number of superheroes. Actually, they have story parallels to the Blue Beetle characters from Charleston Comics before they got absorbed by DC. Right. And then specifically the first Night Owl parodies the Phantom and the second Night Owl parodies Batman. And so I focused on the second Night Owl, Daniel Dreiberg, who employs a number of owl-themed gadgets in battle, as well as he has a large owl ship, which is also called Archie, short for Archimedes. Or I guess the shortened version is Archie, and then the long form is Archimedes.
Right.
Based on Merlin's pet from The Once and Future King. He's also an expert hand-to-hand combatant, and he did retire from vigilantism when the Keene Act was passed in Watchmen, but he still kept up with his love of birds because he regularly contributed to scholarly ornithology journals. He's very bird-themed through and through. He is very dedicated to his little theme that he's got going there. So Night Owl is number 10 on our list.
And that's super interesting, too, that he really loves the symbol that he chose, because a lot of people in comics fall into it. Like Spider-Man wasn't all about spiders before he got the bite, you know? Mm-hmm. The fact that he really ran with it and loves it and contributes to ornithology, that's super cool to me.
Yeah, and I think also when people go through the roster of like strong and powerful animals that they could choose, like if you're a mutant like Beak, who unfortunately, didn't make it this list, if you're stuck with those bird powers, like you kind of gotta like deal with it. But birds, I think, aren't on the top list of creatures. Like usually you go for tigers or like sharks or like. And
very rarely do you get a radioactive bird bite. So
yeah.
So it's more something you choose. Except number 9. They didn't exactly choose what happened to them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So number 9 is Hawk and Dove. And Hawk and Dove, that's Hank Hall and Dawn Granger. And they've got a weird set of powers that I just learned about for this. Hawk has the incredible ability to, when danger is around, turn into the superhero Hawk. It's a bit of a transformation where he gets super strength, super speed, the works. Dove has the ability that when there's danger around, she can ring out the word dove, and she'll scream dove, and then turn into a dove, and that's cool.
Very, very specific set of powers. I mean, most people are like Spidey, and to bring up another Spider-Man reference, like poor dude has his Spidey sense going off like anxiety constantly, but like How nice that the powers come built in with like only when there's danger.
Yeah, in fact, she can't actually say dove and turn into a dove if there's not danger. But if there's a danger that she like kind of senses, like the more animalistic side of her senses, but she like doesn't realize, then she will turn into a dove. So it's a fail-proof system.
Okay.
She's always going to turn into a dove and become very agile and very calm and actually peaceful. So the dove plays a huge role into the symbolism of the character, whereas Hawk is very, very aggressive. Like not just Hank Hall, who is aggressive in his own right, but Hawk himself, the hero that he turns into, is, you know, without the balance that Dove brings, he could go full on murderous, you know? He could go
a bird of prey, not the birds of prey, but a bird of prey.
That's a different thing. So they balance each other out, and they're most interesting in the Green Lantern comic. This is my opinion. I'm sorry, hold on. My opinion that they're most interesting in the Brightest Day comic, where because just like many of these, Hawk is a mantle that's been passed down, and so is Dove. Hawk used to be, Dawn.
Dawn,
Dawn,
D-O-N.
yes.
Because then we had Dawn and Dawn.
Yeah, so yeah, Dove.
Superheroes.
Dove used to be Dawn. Gosh, that's a twisty one. And he died. And in the Blackest Night and Brightest Day Green Lantern series, the Black Lantern tried to bring Dawn back to life, but they couldn't, because Dove somehow embodies, and the power that every Dove has, they embody light and they embody life in that way. And so when I was reading about him online, it was saying literally no one is as at peace as he is in the afterlife. Like, he is literally the most at peace because he cannot be bothered after death.
Wow.
Because he's so in tune with life. So that's super interesting. Hawk was able to use Black Lantern power, and Dove was able to use White Lantern power during that crazy calamity. So super interesting. So what's number 8?
Well, I was going to say, first of all, I wonder if Hank was like, okay, I need a new sidekick or partner in crime, but I've already had like name tags made up, or like everybody already knows like the sound of our names, so you have to be named Dawn. Yeah, Dawn and Dawn. But just like you take any opportunity to relate things to Green Lantern, longtime listeners of this podcast may know that I take every opportunity to relate things to Teen Titans. And so number 8 on our list is Raven from Teen Titans, also known as Rachel Roth. That's her kind of human alias. She is the Cambion daughter of Trigon the Terrible and then a human mother in DC Comics, and Cambion means half demon, and her father is obviously a crazy, crazy demon. But she is not only known as Raven for her more gothic attitude, and it's not even quite gothic, it's just she's very in tune with her emotions because she's a very powerful empath and kind of has to be in control of her emotions because anything too strong can influence others, and she's also constantly receiving emotions from other people, which is a very kind of chaotic existence.
Yeah.
But more specifically, she can astral project her soul self is what it's called, and it takes the form of a solid black energy bird, and most specifically a raven that can fight and also acts as extra eyes and ears for Raven on the battlefield. She's also a very, very powerful sorcerer, and she's most frequently associated with the Teen Titans. In the New 52, the artist, I don't remember which artist specifically was in charge of redesigning her, but she even took a more mixed appearance of being more demonic and more bird-like. She had a very strange pointed helmet with several different eyes, which is kind of emblematic of like her demon heritage.
Right, because Trigon has quite a few eyes.
Yeah, I've actually seen the number of eyes Trigon has fluctuate. Sometimes it's 6 and sometimes it's 8. But yes, when she is in tune more with her demonic side. She does have the multiple eyes, but the helmet kind of reflected that. And then her cape, which is very famously, even from the George Perez New Teen Titans era, known for being a flourish like wings, but the New 52 version of her cape was like scalloped like wings.
Wow.
Almost kind of feathered. She looks really creepy. But it's a really cool and unique design. So it's like I love it, but I also nothing can beat that kind of classic blue hood for Raven. And if that wasn't enough for all the bird association, Trigon also introduces her whenever she's kind of like under his control. He introduces her as his black bird of terror. And so
that's good.
Yeah, and so
that's
you
good.
get Raven, but it's also Rachel, and she is his kind of demonic bird emissary. And you kind of associate ravens and crows and those kind of dark birds with magic and the darker seasons and Halloween and stuff like that.
You always have. They have that empathetic sense too, because when you feel like when birds know danger's coming, you'll see, murder of crows flying out of the trees, you know. They're associated with it all.
And ravens especially are exceptionally smart.
Yes.
And perceptive. And so I think that fits really well into her character. No word yet on if anyone's ever going to make a superhero that has seagull powers and can just detect when French fries are around.
Goodness.
Just you saying that birds can like detect danger sense made me think.
Yeah, they have fry sense.
Yeah, fry sense.
I mean, I have fry sense, but where's my radioactive seagull? That's my question.
I don't think you want that. But moving on to number 7 on our list. Number 7 is a mantle that has also belonged to several heroes. You guys will also note that even though there's an excess of bird-based names, I mean, we had to, like, just for some of the people we had to leave off were Blackhawk, Nighthawk, Deathbird, Beak. We had to leave, like, so many birds off this list. A lot of these mantles have belonged to multiple people, like as if there weren't enough birds to go around. Hawkeye is number 7 on our list and has belonged to 2 different notable Marvel heroes. Also, I mean, I don't really count the time in Dark Reign Bullseye was running around pretending to be Hawkeye, but that's a different story.
That's just different. No.
Yeah, that doesn't count. The first Hawkeye is Clint Barton, who was a reformed supervillain who was a villainous trick archer who fought Iron Man. But then he did reform alongside Black Widow, who is a longtime romantic partner of his, and he became an Avenger. He also quit the Avengers, but that's a different story. And he also led the West Coast Avengers. And he became romantically involved and eventually married to Mockingbird Bobby Morse, who's another bird-themed hero, who inspired, in some ways, the second Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, who was, she took on the mantle in the era of Young Avengers. I mean, there's no one era for Young Avengers, but when the Young Avengers first debuted, Clint Barton was presumed dead. And I mean, he was, for all intents and purposes, dead, but comic books. So everybody assumed Hawkeye was dead. So she took on the mantle. She's an expert archer as well. And the hawk in their names does refer to their expert eyesight and aiming. But she is a fencer and a martial artist and a boxer. She's a very rich young woman as well. So she paid for a lot of self-defense classes after she was attacked in Central Park. But when the Young Avengers were stepping up and the old Avengers were in disarray, the team broke into a compound that belonged to the Avengers, and she scavenged her costume, her first Hawkeye costume, out of some of Clint Barton's weaponry and aspects of his costume, but also Mockingbird's costume. And Patriot, Eli Bradley, joked that she should be called Hawkingbird. That didn't stick, but she did take on the Hawkeye mantle, and then during the era, I think it was Secret Invasion, but also the overall branding initiative, Marvel's Heroic Age, which was like mid to late 2000s.
Okay.
Clint Barton did come back, and then eventually was like, hey, there's enough room in this Marvel universe for 2 Hawkeyes. And so they've peacefully coexisted, debating on which is the better Hawkeye. I personally think they're both fantastic. Kate Bishop. But they will both have co-starring roles in a Disney Plus television show sooner or later, which is very interesting. But yes, Hawkeye is number 7 on our list.
Yeah, so you should keep your eagle eye on that show. I did it. I made a pun. Okay. Let's talk number 6, and that is Vulture, the Spider-Man villain, Adrian Tombs.
There we go. I knew there was a reason we were talking about Spider-Man in a bird-themed podcast.
I was prepping for it. I was
yes.
prepping for Vulture.
Foreshadowing.
Who he himself is not very bird-like, except for maybe a particularly long nose, depending on the depiction. He's got no powers of his own, at least originally. He's a brilliant electrical engineer, and he's able to, in time, create a suit for himself that lets him fly, float, levitate,
Hover.
navigate, hover. It really depends on the depiction of him, just how maneuverable it is, but he uses the Vulture claws attached to it and everything. And we've seen Vulture in movies, in video games, in animated shows. In every depiction, he's got a little different of a quirk. Have you seen him with accents before?
I don't know. I mean, my brain immediately went to Michael Keaton and then the video game from the Marvel
Right.
Spider-Man. I don't think he really had an accent in that one. I don't
My
remember.
brain is telling me that there's an accent somewhere, but I can't remember. Well, anyways.
He's kind of got that. Sometimes he's got that because he's an older gentleman as well. Like
Yes.
he's like an older character, and so sometimes he has that like the crazy
Yeah,
old man kind of
exactly.
like yelling at
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Not quite the get off my lawn, but like he's up there with the crazy
And it's-
bird brain.
Right,
kind
and
of.
he is like a vulture in the movie.
Mhm.
He's a scavenger. He's looking for leftover pieces of technology and everything, and he's looking to sustain himself in one way or another. And so I think that his character, especially in that movie, really fits the vulture theme wonderfully.
Mhm.
And he's just creepy. I just like him. In some depictions of him, he doesn't actually need the suit to float, levitate, hover anymore. He can actually just kind of do it.
Wow.
But then he can't like maneuver. So like he can
Once he's up there, he
it's like
can't come down.
It's like he scavenged just a part of the power. But I love the Vulture because he's enjoyable, and I love that an old man is, getting really angry about some teenage superhero. I don't know why, but like I enjoy that narrative. But let's. Oh, I'm sorry. You were
Oh
gonna say
no,
something?
no, no! I was gonna say now. Are you finished with?
Oh, I'm
Vulture?
done, yeah, I
All
was
right.
gonna say.
We did give you quite a gamut here of several. It's about time for our honorable mention.
That's exactly what I was going to mention.
Excellent. We get about halfway through these, and the honorable mention list could be all those characters I rattled off earlier. But once again, we found another bird-themed organization that kind of fit the bill, if you will. They don't have this type of
You're
bird
so
doesn't
good.
have bills, but
You're
this-
so good.
But do you want to explain a little bit about this?
I would love
particular-
to tell you about the Court of Owls.
Ooh.
They've been reigning over Gotham for many a year. Actually, since Gotham was founded, the richest and the wealthiest and most, I'm looking for a word, privileged of all of Gotham have gotten together to try and pull the strings behind the scenes, make themselves completely unknown. But they pretty much approach power in every way necessary, in every way possible.
Mhm.
Not only have they been politically pulling the strings since the very beginning, not only have they been putting money into projects that work towards their own power, they also have an executive branch, if you will.
An executive branch?
I know what I did.
Okay,
I know what I did.
just making sure.
They have an enforcer force, I guess. They have Talon. That's the name for their assassins, basically. Highly trained murderers that are sleeper cells. Some of them literally just sleeping. And they've sort of been put into a comatose state until they're called on to
That's creepy.
attack. Yeah, it's horrifying. And it turns out that Dick Grayson is actually one of the sleeper cells, and he's been implanted with it, and he becomes a Talon, and it's a whole thing, and it's so cool.
Ooh.
But the Court of Owls is our honorable mention.
I remember very distinctly because that was if I'm not mistaken, that is the Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. That's like
correct.
one of the. It's not. Is it the first volume of that series, or it's like one of the?
I think it's first and second.
First
that
and
it
second.
comes to.
They're
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember which number in the volume for that Batman series it is, but there was a very distinctly nice boxed set that they. I remember selling these at the comic book store because they took up so much shelf space.
Right.
But it was the book along with a mask for the Court of Owls because they have a very distinct mask, and you've probably seen cosplayers wearing them and such. But the mask was like the first thing in the box. It had the nice little plastic clear window so you could look in, and then it also included the graphic novel so you could read it, but it was very distinctly like we stocked so many Court of Owls masks.
But they do all wear owl masks as a form of anonymity. Even if they know who everyone else is, they cover their faces because they're ruthless. They're completely emotionless in their dealings. And so they cover up their face with this owl visage. And I love it because owls fly completely silently, and they're just trying to go under the radar, this Court of Owls. So it's completely silent in the night. And that's our honorable mention.
All right. Now I think we're going to get to someone who's a little not so silent in their powers.
Yeah, this one gets a little bit louder because number 5 is Black Canary. Dinah Laurel Lance coming in hot with the sonic cry, or the canary cry, the ability to shout and make sound at such a piercing level. It can shatter metal, the breaking glass thing.
Yeah.
That, except times a whole lot. She's got the ability to make her own sonic abilities a concussive force, which is incredibly impressive. And a minor aspect of her powers is that she can actually imitate other sounds using her incredible control over her voice.
Oh, really?
And so she's got this incredible, very bird-like ability. That canary cry is very much a canary cry. And it's got that sound, it's got that ring to it.
She's my favorite character in Injustice too, because like when you charge up her special move, she just leaps into the air and then just screams down at the other player until they fall down, and then she can beat them up.
Which is, in some comics, I'm looking at X-Men here, a way to fly.
Yep.
I have not seen Black Canary fly using her voice, and I'm not sure if that's the DC way. But if anyone can do it, it's her.
It reminds me of that meme of a bird. Someone captured a freeze frame of a bird flying, because you know how they retract their wings.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's just hovering, and it has like the angriest little look on its face, and someone's like, this guy is flying with the sheer power of like anger alone. And so that makes me think of just fly by screaming.
And that is entirely what Dinah Laurel Lance can maybe do, but I haven't seen it yet.
Give it to us, DC.
Yeah, DC, if you're taking requests, I'll take that one.
Another fun fact is when they had the recent I can't remember the distinction between when it was like New 52 or that like period between New 52 and Rebirth, but the Babs Tarr, Brendan Fletcher, Cameron Stewart Black Canary series, they actually put out 2 3-song albums on Bandcamp, I think.
What?
And I actually I got the albums, and they're fantastic. They wrote like 6 or 3, or it's between 3 and 6, I don't remember how many there were, original songs that were, because she has a band in that series, and so they like it. I think this was similarly done with Marvel when the Mary Janes were a thing for Spider-Gwen. I mean, they're always a thing,
right.
but the Mary Janes, they created
released
some
an album for that?
They released a Black Canary album.
Oh my goodness.
It's really good. It's actually really good.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
All right.
I know what I'm listening to.
Alrighty.
So that's number 5. Take us to number 4.
Speaking of unique ways to fly.
Squawking of
unique ways to fly. Number 4 on our list. We had to split the distinction. Not quite as, I mean, they're pretty natural as a pair, like Hawk and Dove, but there are multiple versions. Hawkman and Hawkgirl, we couldn't choose one over the other given how intertwined they are, and the fact that there have been so many Hawkmen and Hawkgirls, also Hawkwomen, throughout DC Comics, that we kind of just had to put them together, made sure they had a nice high spot on our list. Technically, the original Hawkman also was created by All American Publications in 1940 before it was absorbed into DC Comics eventually. DC has a lot of those characters. Like Shazam, Blue Beetle, all those guys.
Superman, even.
That you're absolutely right. So the two most prevalent depictions of Hawkman are Carter Hall and Qatar Hall, two entirely different people.
It's totally different. They're not the same.
Yeah, and Carter Hall is the human archaeologist, and Qatar Hall is the Thanagarian. Jeez Louise.
Thanagarian?
I say Thanagar, but it might be Thanagar.
I think the place is Thanagar, and the people say
Thanagarian?
Anyway, it's not important. Go on.
Of Thanagar.
Thanagar.
Police officer. These are the two most common versions, even though there have been numerous others, because especially Carter Hall, I know, is caught in a cycle of reincarnation based on the Egyptian god or prince Khufu. Oh my goodness. I couldn't keep all of this straight, but all versions of Hawkman do use nth metal integrated into their costume to fly, namely the belt, boots, and wings, or like the wing harness. Thanagarians have natural wings, and so they are able to fly. And his superhero silhouette is most well known for the wings and then the mask or the helmet.
Right.
Also, most versions of Hawkman work extremely closely with some form of Hawk Girl, and she too has been numerous different characters over the years, including Shiera Sanders Hall, Shiera Hall. So you're seeing where they're like...
Oh yeah, I think there's a Shiera too. There's all around.
They pulled a Dawn and Dawn with Hawk and Dove, so we've got Shiera and Shiera. And Kendra Saunders is I believe the most recent Hawk Girl. She also has wings attached with an nth metal harness, and she has the bird-like helmet and mask. She's very well known for using more archaic style weapons like a mace, though she is skilled, I believe, with swords and other weaponry. And they are associated frequently with ancient Egypt as reincarnations of Khufu and Chayara. Yeah, it's just... Oh my goodness. Possessing lifetimes of fighting knowledge thanks to their reincarnation.
Now, I think it's interesting that you say, you said archaic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think effective is the word you're looking for. I think it's effective, and she uses a mace, right?
Yes.
She is a mace wielder, which is about the most badass weapon you can wield.
Yeah. With the giant flying wings coming down with the spiked ball.
I don't know why, but it feels iconic.
Yeah.
And not just because of her character. It feels, for some reason, the wings and the mace are just this big feeling.
It's almost a like warped version of the Valkyries, if you like kind of.
Yes.
It's this. Yes. It's almost like the ancient Egyptian version of that.
Right.
And of course my mind immediately always goes to the animated Justice League series and those DC animated productions, and you've just got the beautiful silhouette of Hawkman and Hawk Girl. You want to take it away to the next?
Boy, do I, because we are in the top 3.
Ooh.
And that's when it gets exciting.
I always wonder, like, if people start going, okay, well, they haven't put X, Y, and Z characters in the list just yet. Like, surely we're going to see some of them.
Well, I can certainly put an X character in there with this next one, an Omega level mutant, Jean Grey. She's got the ability of telepathy. That's her primary mutation. A telepathic connection that is stronger than literally everybody else's, right? We got
pretty
that
much.
Right?
I need to call up Jonathan Hickman and be like, hey, bro, please explain to me the House of X. Because for those who don't know, they did wipe the slate of Omega level mutants and reestablish like a limited number of them.
Yeah, that's why I'm a little confused about Quentin Quire, because he's also like an Omega level telepath. But in the definition, he said Hickman says like that Omega means they're the best.
Yeah, but there is a distinction for like I believe previously, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
And especially for a lot of characters who host the Phoenix Force.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to get to that.
No, it's all good. I didn't want to steal your thunder there. They become elevated to Omega level status when enhanced with their powers. But characters like, let's say, Emma Frost, she's also a gifted telepath, and at one point, I believe, was considered Omega level. But she may or may not have latent telekinesis. I know Jean Grey has more prominent telekinesis, but Emma is not a Omega level telekinetic. She's barely good at it, but she was at one time. So you can be Omega level in certain, because they have distinctions in their mutations. Some
Okay.
things come wrapped all together, but like Emma's diamond form was a secondary mutation, and
Right.
I don't think you can be Omega level diamond form because there's also not that many. But like the
Mhm.
class of telepaths, yes,
Yeah. So Jean
very
Grey's
confusing.
the best. Jean Grey's the best. That's what it comes down to.
Mhm.
She's also the best because she can house this bird-like force, the Phoenix Force, and it is depicted strangely as a human bird, or an Earth bird
Mhm.
creature, even though it's kind of its own cosmic alien entity that is the force that it's the spark of life in the
Mhm.
Marvel universe. And so it's always been very interesting to me that they associate it with the Phoenix. And I think it's because it's so powerful, you
Mhm.
know? And so she, as the Phoenix, has, I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, limitless power. Like it's just
Yeah,
pretty much
I mean,
limitless power.
no one wants to ask her to test her upper limits, but it's pretty close.
Because it's also rather destructive.
Mm-hmm.
Because with that life comes, I'll call it overgrowth. Just endless power emanating from the Phoenix Force, and she can't really house it entirely. And so the Phoenix has, in some cases, kind of taken over Jean Grey. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she's become the Dark Phoenix because the Phoenix Force has many aspects to it. You know,
It's even fully imitated her, and in one instance in the X-Men comics, it broke apart, and it took 5 people, the Phoenix Force 5, to maintain that kind of.
including Quentin Quire,
Yes.
which that's okay.
I loved that. And he gave up his little bit of the Phoenix Force to save Jubilee because
I have not read that comic. That's so great.
it's the most recent Generation X, and I know a lot of people were like, "Hey, but Generation X was a specific but this is like the millennial Generation X." Jubilee is a vampire up until very recently,
Right.
but Monet St. Croix was possessed by her brother. And then I lose track of those two. I think it's like M Plate and M were their names. Anyways,
It's fine. I'm already a little lost, but go
yeah.
on.
So she tried to kill Jubilee by throwing her into the sun and taking off the necklace that gave her sun immunity.
Right.
And Jubilee caught on fire and was about to die. And then Quentin Quire was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I got to do something for my teacher," because Jubilee was the instructor of their class, and he gave up his little bit of the Phoenix Force that he had acquired in the Mighty Thor number 18, 19, to devamp, I guess.
Yeah. Bring life back
to Jubilee. And then he has, in West Coast Avengers, he shows up with a t-shirt that says, "I devamped Jubilee," and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. Quentin Quire has some of the best t-shirts, like total side note, but he was a Phoenix host as well.
So yeah, number 3 isn't so much Jean Grey as the Phoenix and everyone who's really hosted the Phoenix, including Quentin Quire. So
Jane Foster punched the Phoenix with Mjolnir one time. So
right.
Take that.
That's number 1 insane. Number 2 a little off topic. Okay, why don't we move on to number 2?
Sure thing. Number 2 on our list is also a mantle that has actually only very recently been given to multiple people, but primarily it is associated with Samuel Thomas Wilson. He is the Falcon. He's a longtime ally of Captain America, created by Stan Lee and Gene Colan. Sam Wilson was the first African-American superhero in mainstream comics. Black Panther was the first Black superhero because he was from the fictional nation of Wakanda, but Sam Wilson, the Falcon, was the first African-American superhero in mainstream comics. He was also it was noted that he had an empathic link with his pet bird, Redwing, which in some instances was actually described as painful. Just for whatever reason, it was like a sensory overload for Sam Wilson. But on the whole, it was a beneficial relationship, and he could use Redwing to be extra eyes and ears for him. Xavier confirmed this was a telepathic link in Captain America 174. They actually went to Professor X and was like, you know, like mind stuff. What's up with this? But apart from his bird costume and his ability to empathize with birds, he was also noted as a bird trainer. Sam Wilson is a skilled combatant in judo and karate, and he was taught to use Captain America's shield because his mantle was vacated briefly as he took on the role of Captain America. And in that time, a human mutate with actual like bird feather wings named Joaquin Torres became the Falcon. Also, Adrian Toombs became Falcon for like a hot second.
Whoa!
Yeah, I
Unexpected.
didn't want to jump ahead when you were mentioning the Vulture, but for like a real hot second, he was also the Falcon, which was super weird.
I love that. I love that like a 60-year-old man was assuming that role. Go on.
Yes. And then, of course, one of the most interesting parts about Sam Wilson's Falcon mantle is the suit, because he does have wings, and these wings were made of different materials across time. His first version of the suit, they retro explained, because I don't think Stan Lee came up with this exactly, but it was a steel mesh alloy that took solar radiation and powered it into like the exhaust of the wings, and like he could fly.
That is so cool.
But that suit was destroyed, and I believe Black Panther or another one of the very tech-minded superheroes gave him a new suit that emits hard light wings.
Hard
so kind
light
of
is so cool.
Kind of like Captain America's photonic shield, the wings were hard light. And then, of course, when he did take on the mantle of Captain America, you got the really cool red, white, and blue. That was one of like 2015, I think 2014, 15. That was like one of the, I like superhero silhouettes, and like actually Hawkeye has a great one too, because of the David Aja covers for the Matt Fraction series. Like you get to see that silhouette, but like Sam Wilson with the shield and the wings is like one of the best modern superhero silhouettes.
It's powerful.
Yeah, it's very powerful. And totally unrelated, there was a character named Carl Burgess who was the Falcon in Timely Comics. He was kind of a similar superhero. He had a winged suit and stuff, but Timely Comics was Marvel's predecessor. But Carl Burgess did not translate into Marvel proper, but there was a Falcon that predated Marvel Comics that became Marvel Comics. Anyways.
So Falcon's a title that's been handed down a whole bunch.
Yeah, a couple times.
I've got one that's been handed down more. You ready? I've got one that's been handed down so many times. It is our number one on the list, Robin.
Woo!
Batman's sidekick, and he goes, depending on the Robin, it goes on to do a lot more. But the first Robin was Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson was a circus performer with his parents. It was the
Flying Graysons?
The Flying Graysons. I confused it because it was in my mind, it was the High Flying Graysons, but he was a high flyer.
Yes.
That's what it was. That was.
But it was the Flying Graysons.
The Flying Graysons. It was very perfect for him to eventually become Robin. And of course, Robin, none of the Robins have powers. They're all just regular people like Batman, except they're not very regular. They're all quite intelligent. They're all quite diligent in their training and precise. They each have their different strengths depending on the Robin, but all of them are incredibly acrobatic and known kind of for that high flying nature that the first Robin, Dick Grayson, really brought to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been puzzling in my mind what kind of bird symbolism that there is. There's not tons.
Yeah, I mean, Dick did become Nightwing, so he kept it in the family with the bird themed.
And there's of course Red Robin, who is another Robin, but little more birdie.
Yeah. Well, for me, one of the things that always sticks out is obviously Bat is like a creature of the night, but a Robin is a more, especially if you've got like the red-chested Robins, like it's a brighter beacon. But in the psychology of Batman and how he operates, it is a little more dangerous to put your young sidekick in bright colors, but it does give Batman the opportunity to, you've got an acrobat who can narrow and nimbly dodge criminals, who draws their attention because you're in the little spandex yellow, red, whatever you've got.
Right.
I know I think Damian Wayne is the one who has like the black cloak, so he's a little more.
He does have a black cloak, but the rest of his attire is still as bright.
Right, but you've got the acrobat who can quickly distract the bad guys, and then Batman emerges from the shadows. But it's also nice because I think more so than like a bird necessarily, it's like with Dove, the idea of a Robin and a dove and those kinds of creatures. Batman himself has chosen an identity that is brooding and it strikes fear, but he doesn't necessarily want the same for the young. Many of them are orphans or his son or whoever he takes in. it's almost like a don't go down the dark path that I did.
Exactly.
You're still a valuable asset. We're both winged creatures, but one is the day and one is the night.
That's what I found that was bird-like about Robin. And it wasn't that he has this innate like bird power or bird symbolism necessarily. It's that brightness. It's that hope that Batman was the one that named Robin, you know? And so Batman, dark brooding, Robin, a beautiful, you know, red-chested bird that you look to for beauty in your life. And, you know, it's him looking at that next generation.
Aw, Batman loves his Robins.
He always loves his Robins.
He does.
And that's what, I mean, yes, he gets the villains to shoot at them first. Most likely. But, you know, that's for training's sake, you know, whatever. Let's not talk about the morality of Batman here. Let's talk about the fact that Robin is supposed to be the hope and beauty of the next generation and of Batman's sweet little heart.
Yeah. I think we've run the gamut of many bird types. I mean, we don't have a seagull, we don't have a pigeon that I know of. If there are those superheroes,
Darn shame.
Yeah,
but,
darn
you know,
shame.
We'll manage.
For all the fictional New York cities, like you'd think there'd be one pigeon themed superhero, but I digress. There is an interesting symbolism, especially with so many people choosing hawk. We don't have as many eagles, but like the hawk is the more violent type of bird, but it also denotes a precision and like a knowledge to it. And then we have the raven, which is the darker, but it's a smart one. And then we have dove, who is a symbol of peace. And I just think if you're in the market for a new superhero mantle, all of you guys out there, like I would consider the symbolism of birds, because there's something freeing about their ability to fly. Whether or not the superheroes can fly, there's something lofty about their ideals, something beautiful about their symbolism. And there's just a limitless potential, I think, when choosing a bird identity.
I believe the sky is the limit.
So, to recap our list, honorable mention goes to the Court of Owls. Number 10 is Night Owl. Number 9 is Hawk and Dove. Number 8 is Raven. Number 7 is Hawkeye. Number 6 is Vulture. Number 5 is Black Canary. Number 4 is Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Number 3 is Phoenix. Number 2 is Falcon. And number 1 is Robin. So, did the birds on this list flock together, or should we flip the bird and start over? If we missed something that you think should be on the list, be sure to check out our blog and send us your opinions at podcasts@sideshow.com. Thank you for joining us. That was the top 10 bird-themed comic book characters. Do you enjoy the Geek Culture Countdown? We are proud to bring you pop culture content completely ad-free, but that doesn't mean we don't need your support to help keep us going. Please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting platform and help spread the word about our podcast. We welcome fan feedback. Email us at podcasts@sideshow.com with your thoughts and suggestions for how we can make our shows even better. Plus, tune in for our other pop culture podcasts. See your favorite comic and film characters evolve across 2 generations in the bi-weekly Then and Now podcast. Hear exclusive interviews with celebrities and pop culture industry leaders as they let their geek side show in Look Who Showed Up. Then get all the latest pop culture news with our daily briefing, a 2-minute breakdown of all the biggest geek headlines perfect for your Alexa or Google News briefings. We wouldn't exist without your continued support. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to let your geek side show.